Hi everyone, my name is 𝗧𝗦𝗢𝗣. Again, today we are going to be looking at photobashing and using it for storytelling in illustration. So let's get right into it. I prepared a presentation for it. This is something formal. This is something professional. It took me exactly 10 minutes. Appreciate it. So we're going to be looking into photobashing, which is a technique that I use for pretty much all of my pieces. Before I actually used photobashing, I hated doing backgrounds and I avoided doing backgrounds. But eventually, I had to let go of the fear of using this technique because I thought for the longest time that it was considered cheating, which is insane. Like, if you feel like it's making your process easier, it's not really cheating because you're still putting the effort of making the idea and compiling all of the works. And we'll go into a history lesson as well of some really old webcomics that use this technique, so I can manipulate you into using it. It's okay. It's okay to cheat in art. Photobashing is a digital art technique that uses a lot of photography, like a lot of photographies from different sources, and combining all of that, you make the plan for a piece. And this is something that is used in the industry a lot, like in the game industry, in concept art, in animation, whatever. People use it all the time, and I feel sorry for the people that still haven't started using it because it will save you so much time. You will actually love drawing again. You will maybe consider doing backgrounds after this, which is the point. Doing backgrounds is fun. I wanted to show some examples of webcomics that use this type of stuff. For example, there's Romantically, Apocalyptic, which is a webcomic that I don't think it came out in 2012. I think it came out way before that. And it was my first webcomic ever, which is like a lot. That is like saying your first anime was Fullmetal Alchemist. That is going to ruin your expectations for the rest of your life. Why did I do that? And this specific one is really special because I think they pioneered the whole process of photobashing. Like, I'll go into it right now. So, I pulled this. All of this is from their DeviantArt, from the official Romantically Apocalyptic DeviantArt, and they made like a whole tutorial on how the illustrations came to be. And first they get the inspirations, right? They get that type of the vibe, they get inspired from other paintings, from movies and stuff. They later on, which is this little thing right here, later on they get the textures. They will get all of these photos from all across the world because they will travel a lot. They will travel all around the world and they will go into cities, abandoned cities, to photograph all of the buildings. And after that, they will make the storyboard and use that library of photos for the illustration. And if that isn't like insane enough, just for the background, they also dress up as the characters of the webcomic and did all of the poses. Like, at the end of the day, they will draw like an amalgamation of all of their efforts, which is insane. And that explains why Romantically Apocalyptic looks so good to this day. Like, and this is way before AI existed. This is way before a lot of photo libraries like Freepik and stuff like that were there. It freaks me out how much effort they put into this webcomic. Just thinking that every single panel was like this, like it never had like a downgrade. Like, they always kept it like this, and you need to check it out if you haven't. It's so good. And it also really shows how illustration melts with graphic design, because this is pretty much photo manipulation, and photo manipulation is something that is often credited to graphic designers, which is fine. But if you're a graphic designer and you're also an illustrator, you're really missing out on using this technique, because you pretty much have the best of both worlds. You have like the best of those areas, like the best skills possible to make something great. Insane. The other example that I think a lot of us know about, because this is like a bit of a recent one. I say recent, but this like 10 years ago. Ava's Demon, or Ava's Demon, I always say it like Ava, is a webcomic by 𝗦𝗛𝗢𝗣, and it's so good. Like, it started so good and it keeps getting better to the point where the artist got like an entire team of people who will help them color. Like, that is the scale of how big this webcomic is. And Ava's Demon, or Ava's Demon uses exactly what I'm telling you about, like photobashing. And I pulled all of these assets and the tutorial itself from their website, so you should check it out from the website as well. So also was one of the first introductions I had to this entire process. And you can see that they pulled out a lot of textures. They pulled out like the sky and everything, all of the buildings, and they make like a combination of all of it. And at the end of the day, what you're actually painting is already there. Like, the composition by itself is already done. Like, I will say like 70% of the work is done, and that allows you to make more time for more ideas. And also it gives you much more artistic liberty on your ideas. You don't feel as confined as when you did before, when you didn't apply photobashing. You can actually do backgrounds now, and it doesn't feel as ugly or scary. Here's a panel. Like, this is a single panel from that webcomic. The level of detail is insane. And now I understand why the artist needs help with the story, because the expectation they put on delivering this art, every single comic strip, that's kind of like a lot. I don't know how they do it. And then here's my art. Hi, this is my art. This is the actual learning point. This is my art. And I have used photobashing, like, I think it's been 3 years since I've started, which is not a lot actually if you think about it. But this is a piece of mine that I started doing photobashing with, and if you can already tell the first idea, like, it has like the idea, like the core idea is there. It's a character shaving their head or getting like their head shaved by someone else, and the background is kind of there. But in the final work, it's something like the composition is entirely different. And the reason why it's so different is because I thought that the symbolism was kind of getting lost with the way I made the first photobash. Like, the composition in the first photobash tells you kind of like a story, but I wanted to expand on it, so that's why I made the final artwork much bigger. So this is pretty much a character that is getting their hair shaven off because they're going through a gender transition, and so their friends are helping them, and you can kind of see on their clothing, and you can kind of see on the objects around them that this is something done in a communal space, like only them, it's also other people helping out with stuff they got at home, which ties to the found family trope. There's this other one, which is fan art for Moomin and Snufkin, and this one, every time I see the photobash, I kind of laugh because I wasn't able to find a good reference for the hands. So if you see the photobash by itself, the hands are just there. Like, I just put it there like, hey, remember to make them. They need to be like this. And the Photobash, it feels like it's only like a picture, like the rocks and the water are together, right? But actually, all of those rocks and the water that is over here and the water that is over there are from completely different places from the internet. And also Moomin, I think that's like a given. I did paint. If you can see that, I did paint like his little leg, like to tell myself, hey, you need to put his little leg over here. But at the end, I just shifted it, and I think it looks better that way with them like crossing their legs. Besties, novios, boyfriends. So that's another example. This one, I think I went a little overboard. So the photo bashing by itself was insane. The bed is one thing, like it's one picture. The bed frame is from another place. The nightstands, another place. And for some reason, I wanted to add that specific painting, which we'll see later on. And so at the end, I only had to draw over the characters. But if you see the speed paint, I don't know if I can read it. Okay. If you see the speed paint, I used 3D models from Clip Studio Paint because I had the idea in my head, but it was really hard figuring out the anatomy and figuring out how they will take up the space on the Photobash, because it's one thing to make the background, but figuring out where the characters are going is really hard by itself, so you can always use 3D models for that. Use 3D models, it's easier. So you can see that I work over the Photobash, I make a sketch, and then after I make the sketch of the characters, I go over the Photobash and I start painting over everything, right? So, and if you see the painting, like the Photobash with the painting, I kind of just painted over it. I don't know if that makes sense, but I made them into furries, so that makes it cooler. That makes it fun. Yeah, this is the painting I was telling you about, Dante and Virgil in Hell. That is the original painting, and that is the paint over I did technically, but it's something that I know pretty much everyone is going to recognize. Like, it's a pretty famous painting, and I thought it will fit really well in the symbolism of the piece, which is pretty much about cannibalism and overdependence in romantic relationships, but with furries. This one is the process for a traditional painting, which is different, I guess. And this was one of the first, I think this was the first time actually that I made a live reference, including the clothing. Like the clothing, I made that myself. That's like 4 pieces that I just tied together, and I made like a makeshift dress, and that ended up on the painting. So the reason why I made that is because I could not find something on the internet that looked like I wanted it to, and especially because I had planned for the subject to be jumping mid-air, so jumping mid-air is going to cause the folds to move in a very specific way, so it's really hard to find reference for that and make a Photobash of something that doesn't really exist. That only exists that only happens in your head, right? So I made a live session for that. I took like 40 pictures at like 3 a.m. on a work day, and then I found like the best pictures and prepared the Photobash. And the Photobash actually looks very different. I wouldn't say like it looks way different, but you can tell that I went way further with this one in comparison with other ones, right? Like you can see where it came from the Photobash, but there's definitely something going on, like something trippy is going on over there. Like the face of the subject is entirely different, like the anatomy and the proportions is very much different. So yeah. This one, I had planned this idea in 2021, and I had the mood board done. I had this scene written down. Like I have it right. I have it. I wouldn't show it, but I have it saved in my computer. Like the whole scene written, like it's some sort of fanfic. It's there. But I was never able to make a photobash that looked like that. So I think it was I made the mood board in 2020 and I made the photobash in 2021. And I think the background was so complex in my head back then that I wasn't able to work on it for the longest time. Like I got so overwhelmed just thinking how I will paint over that. And so just today I started working on it and finally figured it out. And the answer is I had to break it down into pieces. So the photobash, like the background by itself is incredibly complex and it's just like a headache, honestly. But if you actually start seeing things by color, you can trace those down and start piecing it together like a puzzle. So for example, I think I started on the trees, which is the most notable thing, and I went by later on to make the pose, later on the deer, and finally on the flowers and the leaves on the trees. So I went piece by piece until I had something doable, and then I just went by and started coloring everything. It pretty much felt like a puzzle, honestly. It's still not finished, but if we compare the photobash with the work in progress, we can already tell there's some differences. For example, the trees are not like in the exact same spot. There's some trees that I had to take away because it felt too busy and it was too overwhelming. I wanted the focus to be on the subjects, not on the background. Also, the position of the deer are different. I only use the deer because if you see over here, the deer are like incredibly pixelated. And that's the point of photobashing. It doesn't have to be like really exact and really HD. And so I use that reference only to see how the deer will move and in which tree will they be at. You need to do photobashing. It's easy, it's quick. You can do it in pretty much any software. I do a lot of my photobashes actually on clips, like straight up on Clip Studio. Sometimes I don't even pull up Photoshop. And so I just do them on Clip Studio, and if you see a lot of them, for example, this one is like the corners are not exactly cut off where they need to be. I just make something quick that allows my brain to get that idea out. The deer, for example, you can already tell there's like some leftover background from where I pulled them from. And so just have something that helps you get the idea down and work from there. Really quick summarize, actually 3 steps. First thing that you're going to do is you are going to prepare yourself before a painting or an illustration. You may get inspiration and have an idea in your head, and you can start making a mood board. And a mood board is what we saw in the beginning, like the putting all of the pictures in a single place. You don't have to combine them yet. You just need like a mood board of what the vibe is going to be, what the emotions are going to be. Focus on the emotion that you want to convey on the illustration. Your phase 2 is combining that mood board into a photobash. And it's going to happen that a lot of your pictures from the mood board may not get into the final photo bash. That is fine. The photo bash is just to convey the idea that is in your head, the composition and everything, and the last step that you're going to do is draw over that. So it's not cheating, it's free, everyone does it. All of your favorite artists on the internet do it. The artists from Spider-Verse do it. The artists from the entirety of Marvel do it. All of the animation studios do it. So let me know in the comments what you think of this whole thing, what is your opinion on this. If you think if it's cheating, if it's not cheating, visit my store if you want. I guess I do furry art, kind of like for a living. So yeah, see you.